Sense. To cast Aura Finesse targeting Sixth Sense. Does Broodkeeper trigger? Whenever an aura becomes attached to Broodkeeper, put a 2/2 red dragon creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Whenever this creature does combat damage to player, you may draw a card. I think you can, because you can re-equip something. God damn. So become implies a change. Let me read the wording on become. Don't trigger events use the word becomes, for example, becomes attached, becomes blocked. 603. We're looking for, what is it? The word becomes 603.2f. Some trigger events use the word becomes, or for example, becomes attached or becomes blocked. These trigger only at the time the named event happens. They don't trigger if that state already exists or re-trigger if it persists. They don't trigger if that state already exists or re-trigger if it persists. Okay. And what is 701? So, when you were bouncing a Shuko with Nadu, so you are re-equipping it to the same creature. At no point was it unattached. And then the other part of that is Nadu only cares about the targeting. So that's how that works. Heuristic Study. Fuck that noise. Aubrey Crest. The Blade. As Heuristic Study triggers resolves, who makes their choice first? Does Noah choose whether to draw a card, and if yes, may pay it? Okay, Noah controls the Heuristic. Aubrey class casts Duenden. Heuristic Study is on the stack. Do you want to pay the one? As part of the resolution of Heuristic Study, the player may activate a mana ability. Okay. You can activate a mana ability as part of the payment in the middle of the resolution of the trigger. Does Noah choose whether or not to draw the card? Noah chooses on resolution after Aubrey pays. Yes, so Aubrey pays first. So, yeah. Serum Powder. Okay. Avery and Naomi are just beginning the game and have just drawn 7 cards. Naomi has a Serum Powder in their hand. Does Naomi get to know whether Avery is going to mulligan before deciding? Yes, you mulligan sequentially. Aya controls Future Sight. The top card of their library is Crashing Footfalls. Can they suspend it? No, you have to suspend from your hand. But I've learned so much about the timing restrictions of suspend. Because it's actually whenever you could cast that spell. So if you give a sorcery flash, you could suspend it on someone else's turn. Ari controls Possibility, Storm, and casts Prizefighter Construct. Nash counters it with Void Mage Prodigy. You've made a huge mistake. Whenever a player casts a spell from their from their hand, that player exiles it, then exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a card that shares a card type with it. Yeah, Possibility Storm is still going to try to do everything else, I think. Ari doesn't exile the prize fighter in their graveyard. However, they do exile cards from the top. Yeah, okay. So yeah, you've made a mistake. But anyways. Addison controls Marcel the Pretender. Wee woo, Cardinal in chat. Get off your fucking phone and tune in. We have a Marcel question. Addison controls Marcel and has Dawnheart Mentor in exile with a cage counter on it. They exile Quicksilver Elemental targeting Marcel. So yeah, Quicksilver absolutely gains the ability of it. But what your problem is... So yes, Quicksilver gains the activated abilities. Again, can they be activated more than once that turn? Sure. Nothing here is telling me that Coven is online though. Unless the one when White Human is implied to be on the battlefield already. Furthermore, could you tell me where this Quicksilver Elemental is? I assume it's on the battlefield. Quicksilver Elemental does gain the activated abilities, but they can only be activated once per turn. I mean, the nuance here is you can activate Quicksilver to re-give it the ability and activate it again, right? It does gain the activated abilities. They can only be activated once per turn. That's that bottom part. Okay, so I like massively overthought the question. It does gain the activated abilities. So I guess the question at the end of the day is about the restriction on it. But Quicksilver doesn't have that restriction on it. I don't know. I wasn't sure what the objective of the question was, and I might have gotten a little too spicy with it. Melania casts and resolves the approach of the second sun. The game is restarted. They do not win the game. It's not the same game. It's like a new object. Annika controls Sadistic Glee and Izoni, center of the web, which is their commander. Annika sacrifices Izoni to Krovickian Horror. At end of turn, if it is in your graveyard with a creature directly above it, you may return it to your hand. Annika sacrifices Izoni and chooses to put it into their command zone. I think the question is about this interceding it. But then what is this? Whenever any creature is put into any graveyard from play, Annika sacrifices Izoni to Krovickian Horror and chooses it to put in the command zone. Oh, yeah. Yes, it does. Sorry. Misunderstood a pretty important part of this. What the question is you put your commander back into the command zone as a state-based action after it has died or put into exile or been put to your hand. So whenever there's a zone change on your commander, excluding the library, it still counts as it dying. Risala in Red Sun Zenith. with X equals 3. Yes, you can, because its mana value is 4 on the stack. Icetill Explorer. Ooh, we got a new question. They play 2 lands, then cast Rescue the Fowl, targeting Icetill. After resolves, can you pay a 3rd land? No. The number of additional lands you play is like a static value that can change with what's on the battlefield. So when Icetill is on it, you can play that additional land. When Icetill is off of it, you're back to 1 land per turn. If you were to play Azusa, that doesn't give you 3 additional lands because you've already used 1 of your additional lands. And the permission applies to like the whole number of lands per turn. There we go. 305. I should remember this 305 because this is Hearthstone deck.exe. Aiden controls the token that was created as a part of Pan-Glacial Worm. Why are you doing this? Why are you giving me a Pan-Glacial Worm question? All right, Aiden controls a token that was created as a copy of Pan-Glacial Worm and Archmage Ascension with 6 counters on it. So what are we talking about with this token copy? Controls a token that was created as a copy of Pan-Glacial Worm. So 1, you just can't cast a token. Are they maybe trying to say cast the regular? Anyways, you can't cast the token. Sure, and it can't change zones. All right, there's a whole slew of things weird about that question. Aubrey controls a token that's a copy of Golgari Brownscale. Created by Felden. They cast Annihilate to destroy the Brownscale. You absolutely cannot dredge the token. After it dies, it is exiled from your graveyard without using the stack. Guess it disappears. Golgari Brownscale can't leave the graveyard, so that you can't choose to dredge it. All right. Mari, Brooklyn. Sometimes I forget Brooklyn is like a name. That's so funny. Mari, Brooklyn, and Play are playing the multiplayer game. Mari controls Extractor Demon, and Brooklyn controls Blanchwood Treefolk. Amari attacks Brooklyn with the demon, and Brooklyn loses the game. It does trigger because those are all exiled from the battlefield. So Amari, Play doesn't do anything in this game. Amari controls the demon, and then as the Blanchwood Treefolk gets exiled, I believe that is going to trigger the demon. It gets exiled from the battlefield. When a player loses the game, you start by exiling all of their permanents. Right, that's a question on losing the game. It's just a question on leaves the battlefield. Amira controls Sarkhan's Unsealing and 6 mount. They cast Miraxis of Kel, tapping those mount. This Sarkhan's Unsealing trigger. Let's see. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 4, 5, 6, 4 damage at any target. Cast a creature spell with power 4, 7 or greater, 4 damage to opponent. Miraxis of Keld has power and toughness, each equal to the number of untapped artifacts, creatures, and lands you can. You have to tap it to pay for it. But as you announce it before you pay for it, so first you announce it and then you pay for it. So first you would announce it, and when you announce it, it's going to have its characteristic defining abilities as having power of 7. Fucking 6 mountains. Okay, you have 6 mountains. I think it's going to trigger the first ability. Applies in all zones. Tapping lands to cast a spell comes before the game checks to see if unsealing should trigger. So why don't we hop into 601. We want to go to 601.2G. If the total cost includes a mana payment, that player then has a chance to activate mana abilities. Mana abilities must be activated before the costs are paid. Ooh, I see. Mana abilities must be activated before the costs are paid. Convoke is not a mana ability. So is this the Hoarding Brewlord sacrifice? Convoke is a static ability that functions while a spell with Convoke is on the stack. Convoke means for each colored mana in the spell's total cost, if you tap an untapped creature of that color you control rather than paying that mana. For each generic mana in the spell's total cost, you may tap an untapped creature you control rather than pay that mana. It's not an additional cost or alternative cost and applies only after the total cost of the spell is determined. After activating mana abilities, you pay that total cost. So you start by announcing a spell. You figure out the costs. You figure out the cost reduction and increases. I think it's in that order. And then you can convoke it. All right. We're going to go back to 601. Casting a spell includes proposal of the spell, okay? Determination of the cost. Cast a spell with following steps listed below in order. A player must be legally allowed to cast a spell to begin this process. If a player is unable to comply with the requirements of a step listed, the casting of the spell is illegal. The game returns to the moment before the casting of that spell was proposed. To propose the casting of a spell, the player moves that card from where it is to the stack. It becomes the topmost object on the stack. All the characteristics of the card, the player becomes its controller. So when you cast a spell, you tap your mana first. Very cool. We learned something again. Autumn cast neutralize the ground. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. And seize blood operative while surveilling. Whenever you surveil, when you are surveilling, the blood operative is on the top of your library. Okay. Triggered abilities are checked to see if they trigger immediately after the given event has occurred. I guess that makes sense. Whenever you surveil, the whole, oh, there's no priority created. I'm a fucking idiot. Damn, these are way harder today. You're fucking dead is how that interaction works. I don't even need to see the rest of the question. I played Kali of the Vast. I know what we're doing here. Ariel casts Harm's Way, choosing sulfurous springs as the source of damage, and Nancy is the target. Who resolves? Ariel taps sulfurous springs for red. The next damage, a source of your control, would deal damage to you. That a source of your choice would deal to you. That should be prevented unless there's a weird mana ability thing in here. Doesn't matter that it's coming from a source. Okay, cool. There was no mana ability for question in there. Now I'm like so geared towards trying to find these trick questions that it's fucking me up too. Ariel controls Highborn Viper equipped with Glaive of the Guild Pact and no gates. That Vigilance and Menace. It does. The Vigilance and Menace is not contingent on it. Nico controls Alms Collector and Nekuzar. Allison is beginning their draw step. Does Nico draw a card? If an opponent would draw 2 or more cards. No, these are 2 individual draw triggers from Nekuzar. Correct. Austin controls Underrealm Lich. Oh, don't give me a dredge question. If you would draw a card, instead look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put one in your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Well, okay, here's the most important question. What the fuck is Underrealm Lich? This is fucking insanely cool. There's a promo pack, Zendikar Rising. Is there a weird filter on this? So this is from Guilds of Ravnica. So I guess you could just get this out of the Rising promo pack. Sure. When it's in a promo pack like that, is it like a list slot or something? I don't really get it. All right, Asa controls the Lich. Get Rog. Has Touch of Brilliance. When resolving Touch of Brilliance, all 4 cards are put into lands. How many times does Get Rog trigger? Triggers 4 times. So what's going to happen here is there's just going to be 4 triggers on the stack. Triggers when an event places... Oh, it's 1 or more. I'm blind. I'm blind. I am blind. But each Touch of Brilliance happens at a time. I got to read these cards again. We're not dumpstering it like we did yesterday, but today we're learning. All right? Divine Visitation and Parallel Lot. They cast Follow the Conclave. So, These are conflicting replacement effects, so you can apply them whatever order you want. So you can either make two 3/3s and a 4/4, or you can make two 4/4s and two 3/3s. Instead, not in addition. You should be making two 4/4s. Ooh, if an effect would put one or more onto the battlefield. Doesn't say it affects the creation. Divine Visitation creates the process of it. I think you make one 4/4, two 4/4s. There are two. Wait. So what is up with the parallel lives phrasing? All right. It is just two of them. So my first answer was right, and I thought it was a weird rules question. All right. Ainsley casts Chaos Warp targeting Noah's commander. Noah chooses to put it into the command zone instead of the library. Is Noah's library shuffled? Yes. Do they reveal the card of their library and put it onto the battlefield? Terminate. Yes. The one nuance to this is Noah is putting it into the command zone as a replacement effect. Noah could put it into the 99, but then once Chaos Warp has resolved, it still tries to do everything. Noah does reveal the top. It doesn't care where the target moves as it resolves. Alfredo controls Rest in Peace, casts Mind Peel, have Nayeli discard a card. Nayeli discards, locks it on Smiter. Does it end up on the battlefield or in exile? It would be put onto the battlefield if a spell or an ability an opponent controls causes you to discard it. Put it onto the battlefield instead of putting it into your graveyard. So it does not ever touch your graveyard because of its own replacement effect. Rest in Peace sees nothing. Oh, it's two just replacement effects. That would make sense too. It'd be like having a Douthie and a Rest in Peace on the field at the same time, right? Adeline casts Smallpox. Nicholas discard Obstinate Baloth as their card. Discard, putting it onto the battlefield, and then sacrifice it as their creature. So we have a replacement effect here. Each player loses one life. Then you discard a card. If a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard it, put it onto the battlefield instead of putting it into your graveyard. I want to say these things are simultaneous. Although Living Death is not simultaneous. So I think this is sequential, but I could be wrong. And a replacement effect could happen in the center of a trigger or a resolution. Yes, they resolve in the order they're written. Okay. Nothing crazy here, but then sometimes you see the word then, and you're like, does then mean that it's not so much state-based actions are being checked? It's like, is the game going to see all those triggers, put them all into like a fake bin, and then once priority is regained and we try to put all the stuff in that bin onto the stack? Anyways, kind of an aside. Analia attacks with Snorting Gar. Ego declares no blocks, then casts Curtain of Light targeting Snorting Gar. Target attacking unblocked creature becomes blocked. Does it trigger? So we just learned about becomes. So this is going from blocked to, sorry, from unblocked to blocked. And so what that means is its quote state is changing. So I believe it does. Blocked in this context refers to the state of being blocked by a creature. Nice. Hey, we learned that today. How sick is that? Okay, Andy controls Old Hazazen. Has Blades of Velis Veil. Targeting Hazazen. Before it resolves, Nia casts Terminate targeting it. After everything resolved, what zone is Blades in? Trying to figure out what the question here is. So after everything is resolved, Blades is going to be in the graveyard. Before it resolves, Nia casts Terminate targeting it. Blades is only targeting Hazazen. Okay, so single target, Blades. Terminate kills this. Any of these red-green sand warriors get exiled. Blades of Velis loses its target and goes to the bin. Okay, yeah. A lot easier of a question than I thought. Eye of Ugin. Aven Mind Sensor, Panglacial Worm. Ashley activates Eye of Ugin. Response. Aven Mind Sensor. While Ashley is resolving the Eye of Ugin, they find Panglacial. Yes, you can. You are searching your library. Yes, and then the Aven Mind Sensor is merely a replacement effect. Amy controls Muldrotha. That's never a good start. Transmogrant altar and has a rumbling Baloth in their graveyard. Good old 4 mana, 4/4. Everyone be very afraid. Amy would like to sacrifice Muldrotha to Transmogrant to pay for the rumbling Baloth. I think you can, but I would understand why I'm wrong. Yes. Because then, I mean, like, the first thing you do is pay your mana cost, right? Which is including this. So the Baloth is, like, basically on the stack already. April controls Ramunap Excavator. Can they cast it from their graveyard face down? Absolutely not. Ixalan Jailer, Drolnu in Dam. God damn, god damn. Nash controls the Jailer. Annika uses Drolnu to give Dam in their graveyard a flashback. Can you cast it from your graveyard to destroy it? Yeah. Cards in graveyards lose all ability. The static ability. Now, is it timestamp? So you absolutely cannot overload it. But that's not the question. I think this is timestamp. Both are being applied in layer 6, so they're applied in timestamp order. Let's fucking go. Let me read the whole answer. Yes, both Ixalan Jailer and Dralnu Lich Lord are applying a continuous effect to Dam, and both are being applied in layer 6. Since there is no dependency between these effects, they're applied in timestamp order. Oh, kill me. I have to learn the layers. In fact, let me hit up my friend who just told me he watched like a 2-hour video on it. All right, we're chilling. I'm gonna go for about 15 more minutes. How about that? Another question. Oh no, not phasing. Fuck. What are we doing here? Why do we have phasing printed on it? Naomi controls the Drake. Abdel casts Dragon Lord. Takes control of it. During Abdel's next untap step, it phases out. Naomi then casts swords, targeting Dragon Lord Salumgar. When does it phase in and who will control it? I think it wasn't here for the... It says for as long as. So I think when it phases back in, it's the same object and should change control. Interesting. Teferi's Drake will phase in under Abdel's next untap step, since they were the player who controlled it last. Since the duration on Dragon Lord Salumgar's continuous effect... Since the duration on Dragon Lord Salumgar's continuous effect that was giving Abdel control of Teferi's Drake has expired, Abdel no longer has any reason to control the Drake. It will phase in under Naomi's control. And we're going to look up some phasing, but phasing as a keyword. So phasing as a static ability just means it's gonna keep phasing, and it's gonna phase on its own. That's kind of sick, actually. Are we going down the rabbit hole? You know, I see a weird mechanic, and all I can think of, would this be a cool... This be a cool or stupid deck? Do I need a copy of this? Wait, this thing is lit. I would rule zero this fucker in a heartbeat. Damn, this thing is awesome. All right, let's keep going. Today I learned, I made a new friend. Alejandro casts Beacon Bolt, targeting Grizzled Outrider controlled by Nico. If Alejandro owns no other instant or sorcery cards in the graveyard or exile, how much damage would Beacon Bolt do? 0. The last thing that happens as part of a spell's resolution is it going to the graveyard. Zero. For that exact reason I listed, who knew? Arden controls Gnarled Mass, enchanted by Lignify. The Gnarled Mass is a 3/3 with no abilities and is a 0/4. Lignify, that has had its third ability activated. So presumably we've activated the first two abilities. That implied they cast Brute Force, targeting Goblin Assistant. After that resolves, cast Mirror Weave, targeting Figure of Destiny. Cast Mirror Weave, targeting Figure of Destiny. Let's see, its copyable values are Kithkin, Spirit Warrior, Avatar, base power 8/8, flying first strike. It is non-legendary. So I think PT, flying first strike are all copyable values. The Gnarled Mass will be an 8/8. With no abilities. Will it? It seems like Lignify, the tricky one. I think the Goblin Assailant, in any case, this is a 13/10. Excuse me, an 11/10. An 11/11, make a wish. It is a 0. Okay, so the Gnarled Mass will keep being a 0/4 because this is a continuous effect. Ah, yes, Mirror Weave is like a blip in the timeline of Gnarled Mass. Assailant is a 4/4 Kithkin. Oh, of course. Of course. It's had its third ability activated, not resolved yet. You motherfucker. All right, but we wanted rule 707 because we wanted to look at pretty specifically copyable value. Copyable. Don't give me fucking stickers. I'm getting lost in the sauce on this one. All right. Excuse me. We have some layers homework to do. Don't mind that too much. I had a pretty good day. Let's do 2 more. Addison controls Draw News Crusade. It's all about Draw New today, huh? In Dromoka Warrior. Cast Conspiracy naming Goblin. Dromoka Warrior is only a Goblin. On the stack, it's a Goblin. All Goblins get 1/1. All goblins are black and are zombies. Your goblins, all goblins are black and are zombies in addition, but they can't do that. So I think it's timestamp. But I feel like I could be wrong. Moko Warrior is a black goblin, so it does get its additional type. The Crusade is indeed dependent on conspiracy. So this in addition does work, even though there's a type overriding event. Magma Burst. Nova casts Magma Burst targeting Ariel, who's at 2 life. Or resolves, Ariel casts Selfless Squire. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you this turn. Short resolves, Ariel casts Selfless Squire, then Angel's Grace. This cares about receiving damage. Angel's Grace, damage that would reduce your life total to 1 is reduced to 1. However, this is going to prevent all damage that would be dealt to you this turn. Selfless Squire is a whenever. These are 2 until end of turn, so the most recent one should go off. Angel's Grace resolves at split second. Is this saying that Selfless Squire is still on the stack? If Selfless Squire enters after the Angel's Grace, it's going to prevent all the damage. If Angel's Grace goes off while this is on the field, Angel's Grace will prevent 1 damage. Selfless Squire prevents the damage and triggers. Angel's Grace never applies since the damage was never dealt. Indeed. Remains at 2 life. Okay, so I was indeed correct, but not for the reason I thought. But I'm glad I reasoned through both ways of it, because that was enough for me. Last one, even though I said 1 fewer. Ari controls Maelstrom Nexus and evokes Revelar. They reveal Fateful Handoff. Can they cast it? You fucking bet they can. It has a lower mana value than Revelar. There is an awkward point here. This would need a target though. Revelar will be on the stack when this is revealed, so you would need another creature in play. It is really funny because in this situation, there is no other target. So you just have to be correct by assuming there's another target. Is that the intention? I don't know. Amulet Vigor, Rupture Spire. Can they pay for the trigger with Rupture Spire? Yes, you can. So these are 2 ETBs. Resolve the Amulet of Vigor first. Untapping a Rupture, then pay for it with the Rupture. All right, these are a bunch of easy ones in a row, so I can't stop. Nash controls Ellie. Analia controls 2 Cornucopias. 2 of them. It's Arcbound Ravager. Well, you're not going to get any life for the Arcbound Ravager. Can they sack the Cornucopias to Ravager to keep it alive? No, it would die as a state-based action. Cornucopias are just like a little trick question. State-based actions. Big surprise, I was correct. Annabelle cast the Resto Angel. No, not on cast. If you target it, yes. So some of these questions are fucking stupid. But in any case, I have a great morning, afternoon, or night, wherever you are. I'll catch you all next.